Hey Joey, it's been a while since I played Kerbal, but I'm excited that you got it, and I kind of wanted to make a little video here to show you some of the basics as I remember them. Like I said, it's been a while, so I think a lot of things have changed since I played about... I think I picked it up a couple of years ago, but I hadn't really played it since about 3 or 4 years ago. Extensively. So, probably blow up some rockets, but I just wanted to, you know, show you some of the things that might be helpful cutting through all. There's a bunch of stuff at first, you know, staring you in the face. Start a new. We'll go do a sandbox game. I'll just call it sandbox. So it looks like the 3 modes. See, these 2 modes are new for me. I've messed around a little bit with them. Like I said about it, shortly after they came out. Career mode, you have to manage all aspects. In science mode, you must gather scientific data. Okay, so sandbox, you start with everything unlocked. Change my flag. It's not really important. And then difficulty, looks like we have easy, normal, moderate, hard, and custom. I'm going to leave it on normal because that sounds pretty good. And then off we go. Alright. And I think now, yeah, they've got all these things they'll like walk you through stuff, which is probably really helpful, so, you know, might be useful. Looks like... Actually, it looks like they've got these buttons now, so you can click on the buildings or you can click on these. So your different buildings you have, and I think when you start in career in science mode, you don't have all of these, or they're like a lot smaller, like a lot more basic. So you have to you can upgrade your whole station. Astronaut complex, that's where you hire astronauts. Flagpole, I don't know. I guess so that's where your flag is. Launch pad, self-explanatory. Runway for space planes, which I've done a little with. Phil's done a lot more with space planes. He's done a lot more with a lot of this stuff, actually. Space plane hangar, that's where you design your space plane. Tracking station, that's where you can go and look at all the active probes and spaceships you have out in space, wherever, or asteroids and all that stuff. So right now there will be nothing, but you have to launch stuff, and then you can also go click on those and go continue flying where you left off on those missions, that sort of thing. But they all run in the background in real time while you're doing other things. Vehicle assembly building. So this is where so basically the basic things are vehicle assemblies where you'll build your rocket or spaceplane hangar, and then the launch pad or the runway is where you'll launch them. I think because we're in sandbox mode, we don't need to worry about astronauts. I'm not going to worry about it anyway. Looks like they've added Kerbalpedia or KSPedia. So this is actually probably really useful. So this is a great way to learn. But I'm just going to walk you through like the very basics of kind of getting off the ground, and the rest you'll figure out. So go to the spaceplane vehicle assembly building. I'm going to have to look into the controls too because I don't remember what they are for like the launch controls. Alright. So over here you got all your parts. They're categorized. We're looking at pods right now. Some of these pods carry human pilots, or Kerbal pilots, I guess. Kerbal pilots. And then some of these are robotic. And so these, I think these lower ones here are robotic. So they have a cost in the bottom left of the display. You can see it. But right now we're a sandbox, so it doesn't matter. And they can hold different amounts. They tell you how much electrical charge they use, all that stuff, but I wouldn't worry about that right away. I'm going to just put in a standard. It looks like this is a crew capacity of 1 pod. So this is a one holds 1 pilot. This one holds 3. But look at the size difference. So this guy and then this guy. So that's why. But we're just gonna go with the 1-seater right now. Okay. And then we need rockets under that. So you've got fuel tanks and engines in your next 2 categories. And a bunch of other categories. Man, and then there's a lot that have been added. Thermal. Oh yeah, I think thermal's a new thing. I think this is, you have to radiate heat or your spacecraft may overheat in space. So we'll have to mess with that maybe. Electrical. Okay, we'll get to this stuff. So I'm going to start with the fuel tank. They got kind of different formats of tanks and engines and pods. So you've got your this one's, see that matches in size, and this one's a shorter version of the same thing. So you can kind of, and this is a really short version of that. So you can kind of combine the middle mouse button. If you click that and drag, it zooms. If you roll the middle mouse button, it goes up and down. And if you right click and drag, you can rotate around. And that's the default. I think you can change all that stuff. There's the flag we chose in the background. So I'm gonna click on this stuff. So if I click and drag, it grabs the whole bundle of everything below it. So if I grab the pod, it grabs everything below it, and it obviously lights up to show you what it's gonna grab if you click. So I'm gonna click all of that and throw it back over here, which is gonna delete it. So still got our pod. There's two types of engines and propellant, two broad categories, I should say. Because I don't, what are these drops down here mean? So I don't know what this little icon means. This is oxidizer, maybe. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, you can switch the paint job. Oh, cool. That's new. That's a new feature. Okay, so that's all that is. Did we have that on any of the pods? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, and real quick, you can also sort these by name, mass, cost, or size. So that's helpful. Okay. You have, I was going to say, you have wet fuel or liquid fuel, and you have dry rocket pellet. So the dry ones have the, or solid ones I should say, that's what they're called, have the engine and the fuel built in all as one. So if you want solid rocket fuel, you come to the engine and you grab one of these bad boys and you say, yes, I want to launch a very... But the downside, this is what you need to know, the downside to the solid fuel is that once it's turned on, you can't turn it off. You cannot adjust the intensity of the flame or any of that stuff. It's like, once it's on, it's full bore until it runs out of fuel. So that's definitely an important distinction to be made. But it is very dry, or solid fuel is very fast, or very powerful for what it is. So I'm going to put on, let's see, we have a nice tall, nope, see that one doesn't fit. I'm looking for a tall one that fits with our capsule. I guess I may just stack a few of these guys. So there's probably a lot of options I'm overlooking. Anyway, the basic idea is you click and drag. You want to keep your pod, your spacecraft, at least starting out, pretty symmetrical. You could do unbalanced designs, but you just have to, you know, compensate and stuff. So I'm gonna put, heck, I'll put one more. No, let me do this. Let me do a half. I'll put a half of that, and then we're gonna put an engine on the bottom. So the different size engines too. So I can connect a giant. No, that's not a giant one. I can connect one of these larger engines. I know the mainsail, this guy, but that doesn't fit very well. So, but there are important characteristics of these engines to pay attention to. But right now, like the atomic rocket motor, you can look on the right side. It gives you all sorts of statistics. Tells you what type of fuel it needs, how fast it burns through the fuel, and then its thrust, and it's in atmosphere, and there's thrust in a vacuum. And then the engine ISP is the specific impulse, and that's a whole nother thing. And then there's cost. So I'm just going to grab one of these are kind of two reasonable ones to just kind of start with if you don't want to worry with a lot of that stuff. This one has 205 kilonewtons of thrust. This one has 167, so this one's more powerful, but probably burns through the fuel, yeah, about much faster. So, and it's worth noting too that these fuels need oxidizers so that they can function. They have, basically, it's oxygen, a form of oxygen that they can use in space and on Earth too, for what it's worth. And that is mixed in with these tanks. So these fuel tanks have oxidizers mixed in. So anyway, so that's a basic rocket. You can let me real quick before we launch this. Two things. We want a parachute so we can return. Right now, this would just crash back down. And so I think that's in utility. Yeah, so that's a big parachute. And then this one's a tiny no, that's not. Where's the tiny one? Here's our tiny one. Tiny parachute. And so, and then one other thing, or a couple other things I should say. Over here on the right we have staging. So right now, if I hit spacebar, parachute and the bottom engine are both going to activate at the same time because they're in the same stage. But I hit plus, I can add a stage. Then I can drag this to the next stage. And then so spacebar, when we're on the launch pad, will go between stages. And you can make these stages as complex or simple as you want. But it's very important. Like, you'll get out on the pad if you don't have your staging right. Yeah, all sorts of terrible things can happen. Another thing I wanted to point out is if I grab, let's say, I'll just show it with this. We'll get rid of this parachute, and we'll put a side mounted parachute. But if I want to balance it, I can either meticulously come out here and like try to place 3 carefully, or you can come down here at the bottom and you can click on this, and it'll do, you know, bilateral or trilateral, quadrilateral, whatever, quadrilateral. So anyway, if you wanted to put, I usually just do 3's fine. This, make sure I don't put it over the door. I may not have a choice. Yeah, it looks like we don't have a choice. We'll do 2 instead. And that'll put that. Okay, and again, that's when I installed it, it doesn't know it goes to the wrong stage, so we want to definitely have that on its own stage. Okay. That's enough for starters, so let's do that, and I'll show you what we have. There's probably a lot of stuff we're missing, but let's check it out. Now you launch. So that's all you need to kind of get something going. And you can do far simpler craft. You can do a robot with, why don't we have a, oh, there he is, he just showed up. You can do a robot with one solid, you know, rocket booster, just hit launch and you're good to go. So when I hit space right now the staging is to my left. When I hit space, let me hang on, my interface is way too big. I'm sitting back watching this on my TV, so it being larger helps, but yeah, right now I don't want to have it that large. Can I change it here? Video and graphics, gameplay, UI, there we go. Huh, it's app scale. Interesting, so nav ball scale, I'll just turn this down. That's cool, so that's a nice little, all right. So I mentioned to you earlier, let me make sure my audio is not too loud while we're here. This is gonna be really loud. Master, let's turn this down to about 15%. Okay. All right, resume flight. So now we're on the pad. This rocket can stand on its own weight, but if you get a really big, complicated rocket, you'll want to attach a tower to the side of it. That's just in the hangar where you build the rocket. You can do that. When I hit space, it's going to do the stage 0, I hope, and not 1 first. It should do 0 first. We'll see if that's backward. I need to double check my controls, but I think WASD is controlling your rocket, and I think throttle is, we'll find that out because I can adjust that right quick. Whoop, that wasn't it. It's page up, page down, maybe? No, is it Q and E? No, that's not it. Oh, that's trying to make me spin. Look at that. So Q and E, it's rotation. Sorry, I'm trying to acquaint myself. Is it period? No, period. It's period and comma. Speed up and slow down time. Oh man, is it shift? Shift. Shift and control. Left shift and left control. Yeah, left shift and control specifically. So I can adjust my throttle, but my engine's not active right now. But I definitely want to have that up. When I hit space, this guy's gonna either shoot a parachute or we're gonna launch. 1, 2, 3, go! It did the parachute first. Anyway. No matter, let's launch. There we go. And and from here we're launched. What I wanted to point out was my temptation, my temptation early on was to, I don't know why I thought this was going to go so perfectly, was to try to steer this by looking at the rocket, but it's not easy to do at all. The thing I would recommend would be to look at your nav ball. I'm gonna pause that instead, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I'll kind of explain what it stands for briefly when we get back to the after we get back to the hangar. Make a couple of adjustments. Yeah, I'll kind of just show you that real quick. Won't take too long. Let's return to the vehicle revert to. So this is going to undo our disaster because there's a couple of things I wanted to add. All right. I guess this is the current cost, and you can you can click on this and see your center of gravity, center of mass. I mean, that's important for balancing, center of thrust. And there's all sorts of principles to keep in mind. And okay, so we want to make sure we reverse these so that 0 is, there we go. So now parachute's second and the rocket is first. So it counts down on staging. I guess that kind of makes sense. How do I zoom? There's got to be a faster way to zoom in than just, maybe there's not. I guarantee you there is. Anyway, I don't know what it is. What I was going to say was, if you get into space, if you want to separate the rocket from the pod at some point, or in this, well, I'll show you right quick. You can do, I'm going to add an engine right here, and when I connect this to this, it puts a fairing over it. But because of the way this is set up, this might actually disconnect. I'm not sure. Probably what will happen is this engine will come on when I hit this stage, and it'll blow this one up. But what you can do that's really cool is you can put a decoupler on there. So coupling is the what you'll use to detach elements at the prescribed time. So I'm going to put a decoupler, see if this is the right size, it's too small. I'm going to put a decoupler on the bottom of that, and then I'm going to put this to the decoupler. Then what you got to do is you got to come over here and make sure, so stage 1, engine, decouple. That's no good. That means this is going to decouple at the same time as this. So what I'll do is I'll add a stage. So the engine, then the decouple, and then I hit space again, and I get the parachute and this engine that's under this fairing. But obviously we don't want those two at the same time. So let's do this. And you can put, in fact I'll do it here, you can do engine and decoupler at the same time. So now we go. And then what I will do, because we want to be able to, how do we want to do this? Our craft is getting sort of complicated now. I wanted to kind of keep it simple, but let's just try this. Let's give it a go. What I want to try to do is put a tiny engine on here, a light engine, so that we can return from space. I think this might be a good. We'll see. Yeah, that's very tiny. What did I used to? I don't remember what I used to use. I mean, you can put something really small in here. This is the guy. This is the one. So we'll put a decoupler on that, and we'll attach this to this. And because we've added so much weight to our craft, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some solid rocket boosters onto the first stage to help out when we're in the lower atmosphere, when we're still trying to build some momentum and the atmosphere's thicker. So I'm going to want to be able to drop those off whenever they're finished, though, because they'll just, add weight. I don't need them after they're done firing off. So I'm going to put a radial decoupler. I'm going to add 3 of these. So let's do this. There's 2 radial decouplers. This one's fine for now. Actually, you do have to consider heat, so it might make sense to get the. Let's do this. We'll do these. This is probably a little unnecessary, but we're going to put this there, and then I'm going to add some solid boosters to the bottom, and we could do these medium-sized ones, small, medium, and I think really big ones. And we'll do this. And let me turn snapping on because it's. There we go. So now let's double check our staging. So first stage, these come on, but this does not. We want this to come on at the same time as these. So I'm going to move this down to here. Then these are going to drop off in the next stage. So I hit space, these 2 engines come on. Hit space again, these will fall off. hit space again, and this lower section drops off, and this engine ignites, and this top. We don't want that to happen, so I'm going to add a stage in here, move that up. I want that to come on with that. Alright, and this looks about right, and then our parachute. And, pardon me, this is getting a little unwieldy, so I'm going to add a attachment tower to it. So structural, and I don't need 3 of these. You can add a ton of these. Watch this. What's up this? Unnecessary. Oh, yeah, obviously we need that many. We just need 1. So I'm going to add this, and I'm going to make sure I put that in the first stage. Okay, there we go. I think we've got it all ready. We're starting off the ground, but that's all right too. We could lower this, but no big deal. When we get into space, we're going to want to have power, because you run out of power, you can't orient your craft. So I'm going to go to electrical, and we're going to install. We don't need a giant solar panel. We could also put batteries. Probably I'll put a battery. This is going to unbalance the craft a bit, but just kind of. And then we'll put voltaic panels. I thought they just had a little single panel. Maybe they changed the way it looks. Oh, that one's huge. Huh. This is it, maybe. There we go. So I want to put 2 of these. Let's go right underneath the. I'll move that up. And I'm going to put this battery not on top of the door. Alright, so now we'll have, I don't know about the heat thing. I guess we'll find out together. I guess probably I should have some way to radiate heat away. Alright, here goes nothing. So I'll go over the nav ball right quickly. As best I understand it. I'm not obviously a pro at this myself. Sorry, I'm munching on a snack bar. Okay, so this reticle right here just shows you where your craft is aimed. And this blue sphere sort of represents the sky above. Then I don't know if you saw earlier when it wraps around, there's brown on the underside of the ball. The brown represents the ground. The blue represents the sky. And maybe a glass of water, hang on. There's terrible manners for me to eat while I'm talking. These degrees on here, which are hard to read right now. In fact, I should grow that just so we can see it, just so I can see it. There we go. Okay. These degrees have to do with your north, south, east, and west in reference to the Earth, or Kerbin. I believe, so this is 90 degrees, I believe that is, I don't know if that's clockwise or counterclockwise around the equator. Well, there's north. You see north is directly below, so that would be west. So 90 degrees would be westward. 270 degrees would be eastward, I guess, and then south would be 180 degrees. So that again answers that. Basically, you're going to use that to navigate. So if I want to take off and fly around the globe from east to west, I'm going to aim at that 90 degrees and try to keep this thing on this line. Basically, I'm just trying to keep it kind of on that. As long as I'm on that, I know I'm headed in the right direction, or that's probably not the right term. And then where I'm at on this line has to do with whether I'm aiming directly upward or down toward the horizon. Take a little getting used to, but that's basically what it means. And I'll kind of refer to that more too as I'm doing it as best I can. I'm probably gonna be struggling to control my craft. I'll keep it a little larger just so it'll be easier to see. Resume flight. Okay. Again, WASD to control it. Q and E to spin around my central axis. Shift and Control to adjust my throttle. And again, once we launch these, once these solid rocket boosters activate, they will not turn off until they're done. So wish me luck. The game used to not take into account aerodynamics. I think that's something they've changed. So we're probably terribly suited for flying, but let's give it a go. Oh, another thing I want to mention real quick. The idea should not be to just go as fast as possible, as early as possible. We want to kind of maintain, we want to be increasing our speed, but keep it kind of reasonable, because if you're going too fast but down low enough in the atmosphere, there's a lot of drag and a lot of heat, which is bad for our craft. It'll blow up and stuff and tear our stuff to pieces. So kind of want to keep our, and it's less fuel efficient that way too. As anyway, so just that's something to keep in mind. But you know, you experiment, you'll learn through, well, disaster, the way we all do. Okay, so I'm going to keep that on the line. I'm going to go mostly upward for a bit. Do I have? See, I don't have a lot of control. I'm tapping directions right now, and it's not incredibly responsive. We could have put wings on here, and also you can see we're spinning, which is not. Oh, I need to slow down a bit. See, these solid boosters are really fast. Okay, I'm gonna hit space to detach those. Okay, now we got a little more direct control. I'm gonna have to crank my boosters up. Whoa, no, losing control. So I'm fighting to try to keep it on that 90, but I'm doing a poor job. You can see where the ground's coming into view. Now you see this right here, this yellow circle icon. That represents the actual direction our craft is moving. So you can be moving in a different direction from the way you're facing, obviously. A little weird to consider that, but it actually makes, you know, good sense. Okay. And then there's also an icon on the opposite side of the ball from that, which is the I forget what it looks like, but it's showing you the opposite direction you're facing. So if you ever want to increase your speed, the way you can increase it most is by aiming directly at this icon and just full speed ahead. If you want to decrease your speed, you would face it the retrograde direction, the opposite way, and fire it that way. So, okay, so that engine's burned out. I'm gonna hit space, and yeah, because our aerodynamics are so bad. See, the old game didn't care this much, quite this much. So there's the retrograde icon. This has an X in the middle of it. But those are really important, especially once you get into space and you're trying to do burns and stuff. So that's really useful. This is clearly a disaster. But if I go to my map mode down here, I think you can hit M also. Yeah. It brings up this, which shows you your predicted trajectory based on your current path, which, as you can see, is all over the place. We didn't manage to get anywhere near orbit. I don't know what this green line is. That may be a direct, like how direct our line of communication is, like line of sight. I don't know. Anyway, this is all okay because we've got another stage. So you can see right now, whoa, this is incredibly responsive. You can see right now, somewhat, that we are moving toward the ground, and you can tell that because the prograde icon, this guy right here, is in the brown. So you can tell, if we wanted to correct that, we could aim this up probably. This is really unwieldy though, and move it toward the sky. Of course, we don't have enough fuel for it to last long. It would be only a matter of time before we eventually get sunk back down to the brown again. So now I can hit spacebar again to open my parachutes, and we can come softly to a splashdown. And this will update in real time. This AP stands for apoapsis. Apoapsis. That's the highest point in your orbit or trajectory. If you have an orbit, I think it's the apoapsis is the farthest out point. The periapsis would be the nearest point into the body, and they're on opposite sides from one another, because that's the way physics work. And yeah, so that's how you don't get into orbit. So, but anyway, this was a thing that took a little getting used to for me, the nav ball and the retrograde and prograde icons, and then the kind of the basic setting up the staging, you know, kind of the basics you need, like rockets and fuel. Makes sense. Electrical, there's obviously still a lot of stuff I've got to mess with. The aerodynamic stuff is apparently really important now, which is awesome. Because before you could do stuff that was like, this wouldn't really fly. This doesn't make any sense at all. Now they've made it a little more realistic, and the heat issue also. Cannot transmit science. Signal strength. Okay, so maybe signal strength is what that green line is to help you work out. You can come down here and hit EVA or view and see what it looks like inside the capsule. And then C toggled back outside. So C just toggles between those. You can do an EVA too, which is to tell him to climb out of his craft. May not be the best idea right now. And Jebediah is the quintessential Kerbin pilot, or astronaut. Alright, there's our shadow. Now I don't know if that's on the water, probably on the water, not on the floor beneath it. Let's go ahead and revert flight to vehicle assembly and see, because they have pre-built rockets. I just want to try to launch one of these. So these are rockets. These are space planes. And some of these are modules. Like you can probably load up a rocket and attach like an orbiter to it, or you know what I mean. Trying to figure out which one of these we should try. Let's go for this guy. Does that have a computer module? Anyway, looks awesome. Let's do it. So they've got the aerodynamic like cone tips. And they've got fairings. So all this is to make this more aerodynamic. This does not have a manned capsule. I don't know. Would we want to? Do we need like electric stuff on here? I don't want to mess with that right now. Let me load one that I know has it. There's probably a way to check that actually. No. Let's just try the Ericus. That's cool. It's like a little smaller version of a rocket. Is this science? Oops. No, we don't need it. We'll see if this is any better. Can't be any worse than our last one. Alright, throttle up. And away we go. So we're going to start by going more or less vertical. And then we're going to slowly kind of tip over toward, we're going to try to stay on that 90-degree line. I think part of the problem is too, if you get your speed too high too fast, and then you try to, when there's a lot of drag down here, and then you try to turn suddenly, the aerodynamics go really bad, and then you know it, you're heading back toward the Earth at a very fast speed. So I'm going to try to keep my direction sort of on one side of my. Whoa. Guess we didn't get high enough before. Oh, I gotta ignite the next stage. That's what it is. I'm gonna try to keep my where I'm pointed kind of inside this prograde icon, or right on the edge of it. So we're trying to slowly nudge it over. The idea is eventually we need to be out of the atmosphere, but we're also going to need enough horizontal velocity so that, because eventually we'll be falling toward the Earth, but we want to be moving horizontally enough, laterally enough that it doesn't matter. And I think we're actually ready to start turning a little faster. We're up 32,000 meters. Okay, so that just shifted from surface to orbit. That's what that little jump was. And at this point, we could start checking our map and seeing. Okay, so I'm gonna kill this engine right now. What I'm gonna do. So this needs to be about 70,000 meters or more. I'm gonna click on this AP. I'm gonna hit Add Maneuver, and then it gives you a bunch of different things. I don't have a lot of time to talk about this just now, but if you click on this and drag it forward, this is going to show we want to create like this orbit. Okay, so that will put periapsis at 79,000, and then down here it'll tell you you're going to be ready to burn in 1 minute. So it tells you how long until you get to this node, basically. And we need to add 1,400 meters per second. And here's the other thing. This icon right here shows you where we're going to want to be pointed. So once you create a maneuver node, you get these blue icons, and they show you what direction you're going to want to be facing when you do your burn. Now this burn may take longer than a second or two to complete. It's saying 0 seconds estimated, but that's almost certainly not correct. So we'll probably want to burn before we get to the node. We're going to want to start burning early. Now I don't have any idea how much earlier, but we'll just try to, maybe I'll start 20 seconds out. We'll see if that gets us anything. If that ends up being too late, we'll just have to compensate as we go. So T minus 20 seconds. And I don't know what this blue arrow means. I think that's new. It's pointing to something. Maybe that's is that to prograde, maybe? T minus 7. So ideally we would have been going a little more horizontal. Here we go. And this guy's just going, oh yeah, it's going to be quite a bit of burn. Look at this guy. This has to go way... Wait, I'm going the wrong way. Am I? Am I going the wrong way? Yep, I'm facing the wrong way. So that's not the one we want. We want the other icon, which is right here. Whoa. That's what we want right there. So that was a big mistake, but we'll just try to compensate for it. So this is counting, this is moving downward now. So we'll just keep watching that. I'm going to zoom in so we can watch our... Okay, we're out of that stage, so hopefully we have a decent amount of fuel here. You can see this orbit is starting to open up. But this this rocket's considerably less powerful. We should be okay, at least for getting into orbit. As long as we don't run out of fuel, we'll be able to get home too. Sorry, this is really twitchy. There's a way to turn on auto, like SAS, where it'll try to hold a position for you. But I don't know what that is. It's not S. Like tab? No. Oh my gosh! What am I doing? Let's... when in doubt. Why is it doing that? Okay, I gotta get to the bottom of this. How do I get back to my... So I hit tab and apparently that jumps around between things in the map mode. There's Kerbin. And there we are. Now, I want to focus, Dre, Jewel, Lathe, Val, Tylo, Bop, Pol Ilu Erakus. There we go. So, unfortunately, our periapsis, the lowest point in our orbit, is below that 70 or 75,000 meter mark, which means we're going to start encountering drag in the atmosphere. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some speed. I'm going to do that by aiming at our prograde icon. And I'm going to actually aim it higher into the atmosphere a little bit because we're coming up on it. And I'm just going to... There we go. X, by the way, kills the engines. Alright, so now we are in orbit. 80,000 and 32,000. Not a terribly circular orbit. I'm going to click on this maneuver node and hit X. What do these do? I don't know what these do. I'm going to hit X and that'll just get rid of that. Voila. So that's an orbit. And we've got enough fuel to get back home. Whenever we're ready. I'm trying to remember now, how do I use the SAS? Or maybe I don't have SAS on this one. That's the stability thing. Yeah, I don't know, we'll just take a minute to soak in this view. I don't remember how to turn off the HUD. It's F2. I just feel like there's these great moments in this game. And this just around the home planet. It's really amazing when you get out to the farther planets or the farther moons, and you make it out there finally. And you just kind of experience a moment. Pretty awesome. Anyway, while you're out here, like in science mode or career mode, you can do things that help earn you basically experience points or money. Like science experiments. I don't think we have any aboard here. Oh, let's do this. Let's do an EVA. So I'm gonna first off, let me figure out how to do this stability thing because this is driving me nuts. Settings. Oh, cool. You can move the nav ball around. I love that you can adjust these things now. This is amazing. Wow, that's gonna make a huge difference. The UI scale in general. And that's really rad. I'm excited about that. Okay. So I don't know where the I didn't see the key bindings. Well, it's dangerous pushing buttons, but let's try pushing buttons. T. There it is. It is T. Wow. So I can now aim at something and hit T, and then the computer will hold it in place. And I believe that takes energy. And if you click up here, you can see our resources. So if you, let me go over this. If you hover over this, it shows it. But if you hover and click, it'll actually pen it. This shows you how much oxidizer and fuel we have. We didn't bring in a monopropellant. And then our electrical charge, which I thought SAS was using, but maybe it's not. Let's see what happens. It is using it. It's just using it at a rate that doesn't. I guess we're making energy as fast as we're burning it. I don't know what this is. What is that? Is that just part of the engine? I guess it's just part of the engine. But there's all sorts of other things you can do. You can right click on these parts and they give you options sometimes. You can transfer fuel between parts, so you can dock with a space station and fuel up, and there's so many cool options. I'm getting excited thinking about it. I mean, there's so many things I don't even, in the new versions, I gotta learn how to do. So, you can also, by the way, you can also, for what it's worth, affect the staging out here. Like if you realize you get into space and you've got something wrong, you can adjust it. But just be sure when you do that, remember that it doesn't affect it in the way the craft is saved in the space hangar. So every time, if you don't change it in the space hangar, when you get out here every time, you're gonna have to reorder it manually. So let's try an EVA. So I'm gonna hit EVA, and now we're controlling Jebediah Kerman. Hit space to let go. And he should have some monopropellant. How do I turn on the... Okay, I hit R. Turns on his reactor, his RCS. And now we can zip around our spacecraft. We're moving at amazing speed alongside our craft, about 2,500 meters per second in orbit with our craft. And his monopropellant is visible up here. And the controls here are a little different. I think it's like forward back instead of up and down. How do I go down? Is it shift? No, it's control goes downward. Shift goes upward. So I'm gonna get near the craft and it's gonna give me the option to grab back onto it. F and then B. Oops, missed it. B. Oh, I hit C. Or I hit V. So V is messing with the camera. Someday I'm gonna find out where the button is. Hello? You wanna climb back in there, pal? Where's the door? Kind of dark. I should have brought lights. So there it is. So, whoa, oh no, oh no. So there we go. And then B to board. That's that. So you can do some cool stuff with that, but I'm worried my ineptitude is gonna kill Jebediah Kerman. Let's speed up time. Let's experience a sunset. So I'm hitting period now. You can also manually click up here. It'll do a time warp. There's certain speeds you can't go past if you're a certain distance from the atmosphere or like a body. I think it's the atmosphere specifically. But I think we're far enough out that we could probably go full speed if we wanted, which is really fast, so I'm not going to do that. We're going to want to land in the daytime. Scary in the ocean in the dark. Alright. Let's go home. So for that, we want to point toward retrograde, which is this marker, which is, we're aimed the exact opposite direction that we're traveling in reference to this this coordinate system. And yeah. Oh, by the way, T is on, but you can still move. It holds things steadier for you, for sure. You can see, okay, I see here. This is the change in charge. This is the actual charge. So since we don't have solar panels, I believe we're actually slowly losing charge. We can do this antenna. We can extend that so you can see. And we could use that to send data. So that's one of the things you got to do. If you're collecting science, you can either bring the science home physically or you can transmit it back. But anyway, all right. So we're gonna aim at retrograde, and then we're gonna turn our booster on. I'm gonna look on the map, and all we gotta do is just watch until this orbit shows that it's going into kind of the ocean. ish. And then we'll go. We're good to go. Cool. So we're now have a rendezvous scheduled with Kerbin. Jebediah excited as ever. We could burn, keep burning, and may as well run our fuel out. We can land on the land since we have a parachute. Well, I guess you wouldn't want to land in the water even without a parachute either. But there's all sorts of, you know, fun kind of orbital things you'll learn about doing this. I mean, and obviously it's on a, for me it's not on an incredibly academic level, but still you kind of get an intuition and you figure out some of this. So it's kind of learning and fun. Learning about rocket science of all things. So I'm gonna power that rocket down for good measure. Gonna decouple. So now it's just us in our pod. We're at the mercy of gravity. And these pieces will, if they're not scheduled to land, like if we decoupled while we were still orbiting, that part would continue orbiting, well, pretty much forever. As it turns out now, this piece will come crashing to Earth like we would, because it's, you know, it was going slow enough. I don't know why this line is now pointing to whatever that is. Is that, maybe that tells you the body we're orbiting? Is that what this is showing, what this is in reference to? That must be what it is. What happens if I change this to surface? No? I don't know. Alright, let's speed things up. And so when we got to a certain distance, it caps our, right here. Physics warp can affect the structural stability of the vessel. Okay, I don't want to go too fast. So. I need to turn SAS off. Because we do have a heat shield to consider. We do want the heat shield to be, you know, facing the angle of attack. And then these wind dynamics are I think they're less forgiving than they used to be. But anyway, now we're coming to the ground at upward of 250 meters per second, which is pretty fast. You can build like rovers, you can fly rovers to the moon or other planets, you can drive them around, you can build, you know, other planet or lunar bases. I'm gonna hit space to hit our parachute up. Okay, now it looks like we're gonna be golden. Yeah, anyway, so you can build all sorts of cool stuff. You can go out to asteroids. You can you can mine asteroids. You can redirect asteroids. There's like missions where an asteroid's going to come in, you know, I think and you have to like redirect it, or you can direct it into orbit around the planet or the solar system. I mean, the planet. Stuff that we haven't even done in real life. Well, look at that. And there's a guy on YouTube named Scott Manley who does really cool videos. I recommend. I don't think he plays Kerbal much anymore, or he doesn't stream it. I may be wrong, but I know he's toned down. He used to do a ton of videos, and but he has a lot. Like, he's actually a rocket scientist, so he'll talk about, you know, stuff that's you wouldn't even think about for this game, but he applies a lot of these things he knows. So we could do an EVA right now if we wanted to get out and walk around. Whoa. So that must be another part that just crashed down. Anyway, alright. Well, we can now go to the tracking station. I'll show you what you can do here. Well, that's right. We don't have anything orbiting right now. But you'll eventually have debris and, you know, stuff on the moon and out to other planets. But what you can do is you can click on Jebediah Kerman and you can say recover him, and then same with this, you can recover it, or you can go fly it if you want to go back to that mission. So obviously we want to recover these things so we can use Jebediah later. Anyway, and if you're, you know, in game mode, you'll get reputation and stuff. So I think it's that. So sorry this was long and kind of rambly, but I'm excited about playing this again, and I just wanted to A, have an excuse to play it again, and B, maybe give you a quick primer on, you know, some of the basics, what you're at least looking for when you see all this this interface and stuff, you know, staring at you. So anyway, cool, man. I hope to talk to you soon. Hope you're having a good week. I'll talk to you later.